Hey Southwest, I'm Pastor Kim, and this is Hope for Today. I want to go to Matthew chapter 26 with you. I want to look at this final night that Jesus would spend with his disciples. They were gathered for the Passover meal. We know it as the Last Supper together. That Jesus had washed his disciples' feet. Jesus actually had told his disciples that one of them would betray him. Peter was told by Jesus that he would fail. Peter would fail. Peter would actually deny Jesus 3 times that night. We pick it up in verse 57. This is Matthew 26, verse 57 and 58. Then those who had seized Jesus led him to Caiaphas, the high priest, where the scribes and the elders were gathered. And Peter was following at a distance, as far as the courtyard of the high priest, and going inside, he sat with the guards to see the end. And I just want to focus on 6 words here in that passage. Peter was following at a distance. Peter would go on to deny Jesus 3 times that night, but I believe it begins right here. I believe it begins with Peter was following at a distance. It's a cautionary tale for us because we're followers of Jesus, but the question is, are we following at a distance? Because it's easier to follow at a distance. Peter might not be recognized at a distance. He might not be inconvenienced at a distance. He might be harder to disconnect. It might be harder to connect Peter to Jesus if he's following at a distance. And the same is true for us at a distance. We may not be inconvenienced at a distance. It may be harder to connect us to Jesus at a distance. But Jesus tells us that we need to abide in him, that we need to be connected to him like branches to a vine. And look at John chapter 15, verses 4 and 5. Jesus says, "Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit by itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever abides in me and I in him, he it is that bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing." Abiding in Jesus means remaining in him. It means dwelling in him. It's the opposite of following at a distance. So in Jesus' day, following a rabbi was described as following him so closely you were literally stepping in his footprints, as you would be following a rabbi like Jesus. Abiding in Jesus, it means I'm going to remain in him. I'm going to dwell in him. I'm going to be following Jesus closely. Scripture tells us that following Jesus' death, going back to Peter, following Jesus' death, burial, and resurrection, that Jesus personally and lovingly went to Peter and he restored him. Peter would be given the opportunity with Jesus to tell Jesus that he loved him 3 times, once for every time that he had denied Jesus. Peter would be fully restored and he would go on to be one of the great leaders in the first century church in Jerusalem. Listen to this, what it says about him. In Acts chapter 4, it says, the members of the council, this is Peter. This is the same guy that had denied Jesus before. This is what they're saying about him. The members of the council were amazed when they saw the boldness of Peter and John, for they could see that they were ordinary men with no special training in the scriptures. They also recognized them as men who had been with Jesus. So we see this transition from Peter, who is following Jesus at a distance, to a man who is known as a man who had been with Jesus. Well, it's easier to follow at a distance. It's safer to follow at a distance. But my encouragement for us today is let's follow closely. Let's be people who can easily be identified with Jesus. Let's show people love and grace, because that's what Jesus would do. Let's hope that people would say of us that we are normal, ordinary people, but recognize that we have been with Jesus. Well, Southwest, that's hope for today.